Wayne and Jess for breakfast. Of course, it's Thursday. We're still talking law with Despina Priala, and we've been talking about the COVID vaccine. Now that it's been authorised and approved, what happens with policies in the workplace?
Exactly. So as we were talking about policies and procedures before and codes of conduct, I think this is just another example of an extension of yet another policy that employers will have to eventually put into place. Now, it doesn't mean that the policy has to say you must have a COVID-19 vaccine. I think, as we were alluding to before, it's about assessing in your workplace whether it's required for the health and safety of your employees and the health and safety of other people that come into the workplace. And it depends on the type of work environment. And we can talk about practical examples to try and help employers who are listening out there as to whether they should. At the very least, employers should review what they currently have. And then if they think it appropriate, put a policy in. I think you should do it anyway, whether you should have a vaccine or not have a vaccine, or it's at least recommended to review it.
So it's probably who you come in contact with in the industry that you work in?
Well, I think the test is, and there's a lot of legal articles out there talking about this, so the test will be what is reasonable in your workplace to ensure the safety of employees and of other people, dependent on illnesses that may be out there, dependent on the type of workplace that you have. So it's about what is reasonable and fair.
Well, that's an interesting word right there, reasonable. And surely you're going to get all sorts of opinions on that word alone.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a common law principle, isn't it? What's fair and reasonable? What's the reasonable man test? And what is fair and reasonable is often used and has been for many years, of course, at common law. And this is just another example. And that's why I think the Fair Work Commissioner will be very busy, because you can imagine different workplaces will invite, if you could say, the use of policies where you say, well, it's actually for your safety that you need a vaccine. For example, health safety workers. So you've got people working in hospitals. Okay, so I think that's a fair call, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
People working in hospitals, people working in aged care.
Yes.
Okay,
Definitely.
so currently there are policies now about the flu vaccine, as I understand. You can't enter an aged care facility unless you have a flu vaccine. You can't work in an aged care facility unless you have the flu vaccine. That's been out for a while. So you've got people working in hospitals, you've got people working in aged care, then you've got other health safety workers, perhaps mobile carers, who come to your home, who are treating the elderly.
Yep. Childcare.
Childcare is another good one. So there are
Teachers.
teachers, schools, lots of good examples where you can say, well, you know what, it's a big public place, there's a lot of people, and it's probably a fair call in those work environments that the vaccine should be taken by employees. Okay, so other examples where perhaps it's not required, commercial office or offices, would it be required there? Would it be required in retail?
Well, you have clients come to your law firm. Do you get them to register? Because I know in hospitality they have to use QR codes and sign in.
So we already have that. So you go to a cafe or restaurant now and there's requirements to sign in, and sometimes they're quite stringent where they say, well, show me that you've actually signed in, not that you just said, I've signed in. So they have a record. So it's getting quite disciplined in that way. But so you go to cafes and restaurants and other public places, there are registers to sign in. So, for example, as an employer myself, I still have a register for clients that come to the office and sign in, but I don't have to by law currently as a legal office. So I'm not required to keep a register, but I do it anyway. And the reason for that is I want to stay proactive. So you can imagine the situation if someone came to our office and then later on we find that they were positive. I've then got to go back through the records and find out who was in the office on that particular day and then call everybody. And that could be a bit of a nightmare with how your schedules and appointments and bookings are done. So we keep a register, very handy, very practical tool. If we ever have to go back and flip through page by page, date by date, who was here on a particular day. So I make it mandatory, and I don't have any objection from anybody who turns up to do it. So it's just a choice I make as an employer, and it's just an example for other employers listening out there that you may just have to do a policy where you're being proactive, you look at your current situation, you say, I think I should put a policy in to recommend at least people review it and see if we need to have a vaccine or not.
Now, in any given workplace, employees will have different opinions about having a vaccine or not having a vaccine, and that in itself is undoubtedly going to cause issues. But is there a possibility, for example, that there might be some bullying within the workplace because one set of employees wants the vaccine and has the vaccine, whereas another set may not want it, may not want to touch it? Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, and that's another point where we might see litigation come out, because we already have a case that came out last year in August of a particular employee who took his employee to task for bullying as a result of COVID. Nothing to do with the vaccine. It was to do with the fact that COVID last year saw, as you know, a lot of workplaces having to separate and have people work from home. So you had some people in the office and some people working from home scattered around. This particular employee took his employer to the Fair Work Commission and said, I feel bullied. I'm not being included on emails, Zoom meetings, Skype meetings. I'm being shunned. So he actually, at this point in time, the decision has stayed because the Fair Work Commissioner has said, well, let's see if the behaviour continues before I make a decision, which is a bit of a big call rather than just dismissing it. So you already see these cases coming out about bullying as a result of COVID/isolation and different work environments. And now we're going to the next stage where we're seeing possibly a vaccine where you might have to have employees take it or not. And then you might have employees, as you say, go, oh, I don't really want it. I'm objecting on these grounds, religious grounds, cultural grounds, other grounds. Why should I have it? So again, I say Fair Work Commissioner will be very busy because you can imagine the plethora of cases that may come out.
And you don't even have to be an employee in the building.
Yes, well, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. This particular case is someone who works from home, but you are employed, you are working for someone, and you all have to adhere to the same policies and procedures. So I'm not about encouraging employees or employers to issue lawsuits. What I'm saying is I think that employers should be proactive rather than waiting for things to happen or waiting for perhaps for employees to take the first step, or where you're taken to the commissioner about a particular set of events. I think you should review your current policies, see if you need to implement some new ones, and then wait for any new laws that come out, and then perhaps review again around the new laws about the vaccine.
And this will change over time as well because, we're only 1 year into it now. A couple of days ago, we clocked up the first year since the first COVID-19 case was found in Australia. So we're only a little way into it. We've got still a long way to go, haven't we?
It's tip of the iceberg. I think we're just on the edge. And that's why, again, I say the next 5 years. Because I think last year, if I can say, people were initially going, oh, when is this all going to be over? And it's not. It's just a matter of we'd have to deal with it in society. We've got to adapt. And we've got to deal with changes. And changes to the laws is just one of those things that help us govern changes in society. I mean, that's what what the laws are built on, the foundation of what happens in society about governance and management and perhaps control. So, yeah, it'll be interesting times ahead.
And you're talking about evolving within the workplace, but I guess there's going to be the workplace health and safety, the act that we are governed by, that's all bound to change also.
It will, undoubtedly, over the next year, or the next 6 months, year, and to the next 5 years and beyond.
So we can get further advice from you. We can look at your YouTube channel and we can Google Priala, Priala, otherwise prialalegal.com.au. We can come and visit you too at Runaway Bay.
You can, absolutely. You can ring up the office, make an appointment, give us a call on 55 291 294.
And don't forget to sign the little book when you come to the office as well.
Yes.
We'll see you next week, Jasmina.
See you then.